For the 12th straight day, Singapore's locally transmitted COVID-19 cases are in the single digits. F&B outlets are ordered to close just as groups of 5 are allowed to dine in from Monday. And we'll have predictions for the Euro 2020 final, including how England could defeat Italy. Hello, I'm Olivia Quay. You're watching The Big Story live in the Straits Times newsroom. You can subscribe to our channel so you never miss a single episode. According to Health Minister Ong Ye Kung in an Instagram live yesterday, COVID-19 vaccine booster shots may start around next Chinese New Year, which falls in February. Authorities here are looking into whether fully vaccinated people will need them. Mr. Ong said that since the vaccines are effective for between 1 and 2 years, the boosters may be needed to augment immunity and better fight against potential new variants, such as the Lambda variant, which is on the radar of several countries. It's been detected in 29 places with a stronger presence in South America. Designating Lambda as a variant of interest last month, the World Health Organization said it's one step below a variant of concern, under which the Alpha and Delta mutations are classified. An update on today's COVID-19 numbers. 10 new cases were confirmed today. Only one was locally transmitted and is currently unlinked. The remaining 9 were imported, with 6 detected upon arrival, while 3 developed COVID-19 during stay-home notice or isolation. More details will be shared later tonight. Seven F&B outlets were ordered to close for breaches like multiple failures to seat patrons at least 1 meter apart, permitting intermingling between groups and allowing groups of more than 2 people not from the same household to sit across many tables. In an email to the Straits Times, Food Junction said its Bugis Junction outlet is banned from having dine-in services from July 10th to the 19th. It remains open for takeaway and delivery. Singapore has sent 2 plane loads of medical supplies and equipment to Indonesia to support its battle against surging COVID-19 cases. The items include oxygen cylinders, ventilators, masks, gloves and gowns. Indonesia reported a record of over 38,000 new cases yesterday. With precisely 2 weeks to the Olympics, the Olympic flame has arrived in Tokyo, but it was a low-key ceremony with 0 fans physically present. Held in the near-empty Kumazawa Olympic Park General Sports Ground, the lantern carrying the flame was handed to Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike. The gloomy weather not helping the already subdued atmosphere, but it is reflective of what's to come in Tokyo in a fortnight's time. These stadium seats will remain unfilled because organizers have confirmed that all spectators are banned from Olympic venues. Venues outside the Greater Tokyo metropolitan area would allow small numbers, and the policy for the Paralympics will be decided next month. Now, ticket revenues were projected to be about $815 million. Dwindling to almost nothing, it will likely further strain the Games' budget, which has already blown out to an estimated $15.4 billion. With more is the Straits Times' Japan correspondent Walter Sim, who joins me now from Tokyo. Hi, Walter. So, although expected, the move to ban all spectators is still a sharp U-turn from just weeks ago when organizers said they aim to hold the Olympics with some spectators. What factors led to officials changing their minds in such a short period?
Well, I do think the key reason would have to be the spike in new COVID-19 cases in Tokyo. So 2 days ago, Tokyo recorded 920 cases, which is the highest since May. And since then, there have been over 800 cases per day. So with that in mind, the Japan government decided to impose a new state of emergency, which is the 4th in Tokyo, that will begin from next week. And it's not really a good look, I think, to hold a massive games in front of spectators. State of emergency is ongoing. And when we think of domestic spectators, we are not only looking at, say, ticket holders who live in Tokyo, but, you know, the organizers were expecting spectators to come from all over the country. And I think that itself presents a risk of people bringing the virus back home, especially to the rural parts of Japan. So that is one reason. But besides that, I think the ruling Liberal Democratic Party also has its pulse on the ground after it did not do so well in the Tokyo election last Sunday. The party insiders really regarded its failure to win a majority as a failure. And so, well, I guess they sensed public sentiment against the games and decided to take such a drastic measure, even though scientific experts, its own supercomputer modeling has shown that having a games in front of a crowd of 10,000 people really does not pose that much of a risk.
Oh, right. Well, but for weeks, medical experts have said that having no spectators would be the least risky option. What's the sentiment on the ground then, Walter, about the latest Olympic decisions? And are you seeing people working around these decisions, like organizing watch parties to keep a semblance, of the pomp and spectacle that usually comes with the world's biggest sporting event?
Well, when we talk about risk, it's really about the spectrum, I think, and it really depends on who you talk to. So the government's own experts are saying one thing, whereas we see medical doctors that lead, say, Japan Medical Association, for instance, saying another thing. And I think, well, the sentiment on the ground about these Olympic decisions really is I guess it's unfortunate. There has been a lot of disappointment about how, people who won tickets via a lottery are no longer able to watch the games live. But then again, it also depends on who you talk to, because ironically or not, the decision on the state of emergency, as well as to ban domestic spectators from the games, actually came on the same day when organizers of one of Japan's most popular music festivals, the Rock in Japan Festival, said that they would have to cancel the event for the second straight year. And this festival does not even take place in Tokyo. So there has been a lot of resentment, especially amongst music lovers, amongst youth, and this has created an uproar on Twitter in Japan, basically. Above that, well, with the state of emergency, there isn't really a lot of excitement to begin with. So we see food and beverage operators, F&B owners, really up in arms about the latest emergency measures. Because, well, in Tokyo or in Japan, basically, COVID-19 measures are mainly really targeted at these F&B operators who are not allowed to operate beyond 8 p.m., who are not allowed to serve alcohol, for instance. And so this has really impacted their survival and their livelihoods. So with that in mind, I think there's this trickle-down effect to the general public as well, who are really feeling the fatigue. Tokyo has been under emergency measures for all but 4 weeks this year, and the new measures would really stretch it into August as well.
Well, we have certainly seen some yo-yoing going about, and there are still 2 weeks to the opening ceremony on July the 23rd. Walter, do you expect COVID-19 rules to be tightened or relaxed until then? Or is it a case of, these are the parameters, let's work within them and try to carry out with the games as best as possible?
Well, it's definitely these are the parameters, and let's move towards the games as best as possible, I think. COVID-19 rules will definitely be tightened. The state of emergency starts next Monday, and so with that, there would be slight tightening of the rules above the current, well, relaxed curbs or quasi-emergency, as the Japanese call it. So there will be some tightening of the rules, but I definitely not as strict as what we see in Singapore in terms of like the circuit breakers or heightened phase 2A measures.
I see. Well, Walter, thank you very much for the update. That was Walter Sim, our Japan correspondent for the Straits Times. Earlier this week, Singapore's chef de mission said there are additional COVID-19 measures above those implemented by Olympics organisers to protect our 80-member contingent. All 23 athletes have been fully vaccinated, and they'll spend as little time as possible in Tokyo, arriving 5 days before their competitions and leaving within 48 hours after they end. While there, the contingent will function in a bubble within a bubble to minimise their exposure to risks. From an empty Olympics to what will be a packed Wembley Stadium for the Euro 2020 final on Sunday night. After two epic semi-finals, London now hosts a decider which, for the first time in tournament history, will feature England. Since their 1966 World Cup win at the previous Wembley Stadium, England have lost in the semi-finals of 5 major tournaments. But here they have seen off Germany, Ukraine and Denmark to earn their chance to end 55 trophyless years. Or will the Italians upset the Wembley crowd? The Azzurri's only Euro title came as hosts back in 1968 before missing out on the titles in 2000 and 2012. Sports correspondent David Lee is back, having joined us throughout the tournament. David, both Italy and England were stretched to the limit in the semis. They went to extra time, with Italy needing a penalty shootout to win. So fatigue will hamper preparations and quite possibly the later stages of the final itself. But which team is better equipped to deal with this, you think?
Hi, so unpopular opinion here, but I'm going to say no. Fatigue is not going to be as big a factor as what some would have you believe. Not when it's a final between two teams with such depth. Every name in the England team is a key player at club level, with the exception of maybe goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. You'll be hard-pressed to find a starter who cannot be easily replaced by another international teammate. Gareth Southgate has raised eyebrows at this tournament by playing right-sided Kieran Trippier on the left and left-sided Bukayo Saka on the right. But this just goes to show the versatility of the players he has at his disposal. Plus, you have stars like Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden, and Jack Grealish on the bench. Yes, many of them have had long seasons, and perhaps that's why Rashford has not played so many games as he would have liked, as he's carrying a shoulder injury. But overall, with the squad England have, another 10 games, I think, won't be a problem for this bunch. As for Italy, Roberto Mancini has quite famously used every player in his Italy squad at Euro 2020, except for third-choice goalkeeper Alex Meret. This also shows the quality he has within his squad, as well as the trust he has in his players. The one problem area Italy could have is if somehow left-back Emerson also gets injured, leaving them with no natural option in that position after first-choice Leonardo Spinazzola tore his Achilles tendon earlier in the tournament. Of course, there will be marginal gains for Italy as they played the semi-final a day earlier, like you mentioned. But you can also pull England level with the other argument that they have done less travelling, with only one away game in Rome for the quarterfinals, while Italy have had to travel to Germany and England other than playing at home. In terms of match exertion, Italy have played one more period of extra time than England, but have not fallen behind in any of the games they played, and so didn't have to chase an equalizer. England have, but took only 9 minutes to equalize after Denmark took the lead in the semi-final. But like I said, this is the final we are talking about. It is a one-off. Everything goes out the window. Morale is high at both camps. Everybody is pumped up, and the adrenaline will take over. In any case, both teams have deep and capable reserves to call upon when necessary.
Well, fantastic. So very evenly matched on both sides. Well, Italy are perennial powerhouses who have beaten top-ranked Belgium as well as Spain en route to the final. England boast a watertight defence that has conceded only 1 goal all tournament and will be buoyed by home advantage. But this is uncharted territory for the English in their first major final since 1966. David, you were spot on predicting that these two teams would be in the final, but now who will emerge champions?
Well, I think I should start charging, No, just joking. It's interesting you talked about the defensive records, because while England have just conceded their first goal at Euro 2020, and that too by a free kick, Italy have conceded in each of their last 3 games. So England will fancy the chances of getting a goal while trying to shut out the Italians. Yes, this is uncharted territory for England, but none of the current Italy players have won anything with their national team either. Only Giorgio Chiellini, Leonardo Bonucci and Salvatore Sirigu were part of the team that lost the Euro 2012 final to Spain. So there's not really an advantage there in terms of major final winning experience. On the other hand, 60,000 fans being allowed into Wembley could mean that it's finally going to come home for England. And by it, I'm referring to both a major title as well as possibly COVID-19. We have seen the effects a partisan crowd can have on a home team and how teams have suffered from a lack of support during this pandemic. So that really could be the winning factor in an even matchup. This really is a 50-50 between two well-managed teams. My heart goes out to England, as they are the team many of us Singaporeans of a certain age grew up supporting and suffering with. But I have to stick with my pre-match picks of Italy riding on their record 33-match unbeaten run to the second European title. It will be close, 2-1 in normal or extra time, or even penalties to decide it.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see if David is indeed right once more. Italy versus England. The Euro 2020 final is early on Monday morning here in Singapore at 3 a.m. Set your alarms. In other headlines, former Poly lecturer Tan Boon Lee has issued a formal apology via his lawyers for his racist outburst against an interracial couple which was caught on video last month. He acknowledged that the words he used were, quote, bigoted, discriminatory and insensitive, adding that he had been struggling with a personal matter that had caused him grief and pain, but that it was no excuse for his actions. Mr. Tan also said that he has apologized to the couple and their families and will work on his flaws to ensure that he doesn't repeat the same mistakes. Overseas, in a Facebook post today, UMNO chief Ahmad Zahid Hamidi insisted that his party's decision to withdraw support for Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin was not a power grab. Rather, it was a move to address the government's mishandling of Malaysia's Covid-19 crisis that has continued to set record highs despite a nationwide lockdown. Over 9,100 new cases were reported yesterday. And heavy showers flooding New York City, forcing commuters to plow through waist-deep, filthy waters in subway stations. As you can see from these videos on social media, water pouring onto an incoming train, and in another station, water gushing down the stairs like a waterfall. The floods occurred less than 12 hours ahead of the expected arrival of Storm Elsa. You can get more news and videos on straitstimes.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. Thanks for watching and see you next week.